Bismillah Rahman Rahim. This is subject of professional development and it is lecture number 22. The topic of today's lecture is Delphi method. The outlines of the lectures are introduction about the main topic, definition, history, characteristics, application of Delphi method and how to use it, and then advantages and disadvantages. Now, first of all, in introduction, what is Delphi method? The Delphi method is a structured communication technique originally developed as a systematic, interactive forecasting method which relies on a panel of experts. The Delphi process aims to determine the extent to which experts or lay people agree about a given issue and with each other, and in areas where they disagree, achieve a consensus opinion. Delphi technique is usually conducted through questionnaire. The experts answer questionnaires in 2 or more rounds. After each round, a facilitator provides an anonymous summary of the experts' forecast from the previous round as well as the reasons they provided for their judgment. Thus, experts are encouraged to revise their earlier answers in the light of the replies of other members of their panel. The Delphi technique is a group of communication method where a panel of experts arrives at a consensus over a series of questions and discussions. It is used for estimating or forecasting. Then the question and discussion round begin and usually end by the 3rd or 4th round. It is believed that during this process, the range of the answers will decrease and the group will converge towards the correct answer. Finally, the process is stopped after a predefined stop criterion. For example, number of rounds, achievement of consensus, stability of results, and the mean or median scores of the final. The Delphi method is forecasting process framework, and that is based on the results of multiple rounds of questionnaires sent to the panel of experts. So several rounds of questionnaires are sent out to the group of experts and the anonymous responses are aggregated and shared with the group after each round. The experts are allowed to adjust their answers in subsequent rounds based on how they interpret the group response that has been provided to them. Since multiple rounds of questions are asked and the panel is told what the group thinks as a whole, so the Delphi method seeks to reach the correct response through consensus. We can also explain it that Delphi method have been designed for normative and explorative use, particularly in the area of social policy and public health. In Europe, more recent web-based experiments have used the Delphi method as a communication technique for interactive decisions making and e-democracy. Mini Delphi or estimate talk estimate ETE. Delphi is based on the principle that forecast means or decisions from a structured group of individuals are more accurate than those from unstructured groups. So this has been indicated with the term collective intelligence. The technique can also be adopted for use in face-to-face meetings and is then called mini Delphi or estimate talk estimate. Delphi defines as an organized method for collecting views and information pertaining to the specific area. Remember that this method is only used for collecting views of the people and containing the information regarding a particular area. Delphi method can also be defined as that this is a method that allows dialogue between geographically separated experts while serving an effective means for learning. The Delphi is a survey technique for decision making among isolated respondents, while the nominal group techniques is a highly controlled small group process for the generation of ideas. The Delphi method was originally conceived in the 1950s by Olaf Helmer and Norman Dahlke of the Rand corporations. The name referred to the Oracle of Delphi, the priests at the temple of Apollo, an ancient Greek known for her prophecies. Gathering a group of experts to forecast events and assess complex issues. The Delphi method allows experts to work toward the mutual agreement by conducting a circulating series of questionnaires and releasing related feedback to the further discussions with each subsequent round. The experts' responses shift as rounds are completed based on the information brought forth by other experts participating in the analysis. Moreover, we can say that this is a collective human intelligence. This is also a process of exploring, assessing, and evaluating, because when experts or panel of experts include in this survey, so that method is being evaluated by the expert, and that is basically used for exploring, assessing, and evaluation. Now, what is the history? The name Delphi derives from the Oracle of Delphi. The Delphi method was developed at the beginning of Cold War to forecast the impact of technology on warfare. In 1944, General Henry H. Arnold ordered the creation of the report for the U.S. Army Air Corps on the future technological capabilities that might be used by the military. Different approaches were tried, but the shortcomings of traditional forecasting methods such as theoretical approach, quantitative models, or trends were there. At that time means the different approaches were tried. But the shortcoming, we know that everything fails due to their shortcomings. Extrapolation in areas where precise scientific laws have not been established yet quickly became apparent. To cross these shortcomings, the Delphi method was developed by Project Rand during the 1950 and 1960. We can say that Rand or A.N.D. Rand developed the Delphi method in the 1950s, originally to forecast the impact of technology on warfare. Now there are some key characteristics of Delphi method. There are certain key characteristics of this method which helps to participate to focus on the issues at hand and separate Delphi from other methodologies. The first is structuring of information flow. The first step is to choose your facilitator. We can say that choose a facilitator. The initial contribution from the experts are collected in the form of answers to questionnaire and their comments to these answers. The panel director controls the interactions among the participants by processing the informations and filtering out irrelevant content. So this avoids the negative effects of face-to-face panel discussions and solve the usual problems of group dynamics. If I ask questions that how do we conduct a Delphi study? So remember that Delphi technique, this is having a step-by-step guide. In step 1, we are to choose a facilitator. Means the first step is to choose our facilitator. And in second step, identify the experts. And in third step, we define the problem. And in fourth step, we make round 1 questions. And in step 5, round 2 questions. And in sixth step, round 3 questions. And in seventh step, act on your findings. And at 10th step, to finding a project manager. So Delphi has been widely used for business forecasting and has certain advantages over another structured forecasting approach. Delphi is based on the principle that forecasts from a structured group of individuals are more accurate than those from unstructured groups. If we talk about its working, then we can say that Delphi method is a process used to arrive at a group opinion or decisions by surveying a panel of experts. Our experts respond to several rounds of questionnaires, and the responses are aggregated and shared with the group each after each round. Regular feedback. It means that participants comment on their own forecast, the responses of others, and on the progress of the panel as a whole. At any moment, they can revise their earlier statements. While in regular groups meetings, participants tend to stick to previously stated opinions and often confirm too much to group leader. The Delphi method prevents it. Anonymity of the participants. Usually all participants remain anonymous. Their identity is not revealed even after the completion of the final report. This prevents the authority, personality, or reputation of some participants from dominating others in the process. Arguably, it also frees participants from their personal biases, minimizes the bandwagons effect or halo effect, allows free expressions of opinions, encourages open critique, and facilitates admission of errors when revising earlier. Usually all participants remain anonymous. Their identity is not revealed, even after the completion of the final report. It means that this prevents the authority, personality, or reputation of some participants from dominating others in the process. And in structuring the information flow, the initial contribution from the experts are collected in the form of answers to questionnaires and their comments to see the answers. Now there is some role of facilitator. Means the persons coordinating the Delphi method can be known as facilitator, because the person who is going to facilitate during this method, so that's why we call him a facilitator, and facilitates the responses of their panel of experts who are selected for a reason. Usually they hold knowledge on an opinion or views. The facilitator sends out questionnaires, surveys, etc. And if the panel of experts accept, they follow instructions and present their views. So responses are collected and analyzed, then common and conflicting viewpoints are identified. If consensus is not reached, the process continues through thesis and antithesis to gradually work towards synthesis and building consensus. The persons we also discussed that who coordinates and Delphi methods, he is called facilitator or leader. Usually they hold knowledge on an opinion or view. The facilitator sends out questionnaires, surveys, and if the panel of experts accept, they follow instructions and present their views. Now there are some applications of Delphi methods. First, application of the Delphi methods were in the field of science and technology forecasting. The objective of method was to combine experts' opinion on likelihood and expected development time of the particular technology in a single indicator. First, the group facilitator selects a group of experts based on the topic being examined. Once all participants are confirmed, each member of the group is sent a questionnaire with instructions to comment on each topic based on their personal opinion, experience, or previous research. The questionnaire are returned to the facilitator, who grouped the comments and prepares copies of the information. A copy of the compiled comments is sent to each participant, along with the opportunity to comment further. Later, the Delphi method was applied in other areas, especially those related to public policy issues such as economic trends, health, and education. So it was also applied successfully and with high accuracy in business forecasting. At the end of each moment or each comment sessions, all questionnaires are returned to the facilitator, who decides if another round is necessary or if the results are ready for publishing. So the questionnaire rounds can be repeated as many times as necessary to achieve the journal's sense of consensus. The Delphi method has also been used as a tool to implement multi-stakeholders approaches for participative policy making in developing countries. First application of Delphi methods were in the field of science and technology forecasting. The objective of the method was to combine expert opinions on likelihood and expected development times of the particular technology in a single view. Delphi when it is appropriate, because we must know that when is to apply this Delphi method. In situations where there is no clear-cut resolution of given policy issues. So when you don't have the clear-cut resolutions, then you must adopt this Delphi method. When time and cost constraints make frequent face-to-face meetings difficult to arrange. When there is difficult to arrange the face-to-face meeting, then this method is being adopted. When the heterogeneity of the participants must be preserved and anonymity assured. Use it to explore an issue with the distributed group of people, and use it move a group of people toward consensus. How to use it? First of all, define the problem. Then give everyone the problem. Then collate the responses. And then give everyone the collection. and then repeat as necessary. So there is a need to examine the several type of items, typically issue items, goal items, and opinion items, leads to introducing different evaluation scales which are not used in the standard Delphi. So these often include desirability, feasibility, where the technical and political, and probability, which an analyst can use to outline different scenarios. The desired scenario means from desirability, the potential scenario means from feasibility, and the expected scenario, that is from probability. If we say that define the problem, it means that identify the problem that you want to work on, working it down in a clear way that is easy to understand, that can be in various forms, and form a questionnaire to a broad and open questions. And you can work on one problem, and you can work on several problems at once. Means there is no restrictions that to work on single problem or on different problems. So the constraint is usually the bandwidth and expertise of the people in Delphi group. And the other point is that give everyone the problem. Means recruit people to the Delphi groups. This includes anyone who has been selected to contribute thinking on this project. So there is a seldom a meeting needed for Delphi work, making it ideal for virtual teams. So Delphi thinking can be done with a small group, and it can be done with hundreds of people. Around 20 people is fairly common size. Then send the problem or problems to everyone who is in the group and ask them respond. So you will have to handle a lot of feedback. So asking for short bullet points will make things much easier to deal with than rambling text. Then collate the responses means that take the responses that people send back to you and collate these into a single anonymous list of sets of lists. Make this as easy as possible for the people to read when you send it back out again, but be aware of casting inappropriate bias. For example, you may group responses into inappropriate headings, but with the caution that this might presuppose particular thinking. On the other hand, if you are seeking creative ideas, you may deliberately mix up the answers. And then give everyone the collagens, means send the collagens back out to everyone with a request to score each items on the given scale. So you may also allow them to add further items as appropriate. So remember to include the original problems at the top of the page along with the instructions on what to do. So you can also make responding easier by putting the items in the table with space for the score. Then repeat as necessary means the process may now be repeated for many times as deemed appropriate. If you are seeking consensus and there was a wide range of responses, so then this may require several iterations, in particular at least a second round to see how other have scored can be very useful. So there are some advantages like opportunities for large number of people to participate, and focus is on ideas rather than individuals, and an anonymity for participants which make contributions of ideas safe creativity, and opportunities for participants to reconsider their opinions, and allows for identification of priorities. So there are some limitations like a large amount of time to conduct several rounds, and there is a complexity of the data analysis, and the difficulty of maintaining participant enthusiasm throughout the process. The problem of keeping statements value free and clearly defined, and self-reporting data is subject to respondent biases, and so the bandwagon effect of majority opinions, and the power of persuasions or prestigious individuals to shape group opinions, the vulnerability of group dynamics to manipulations, and the unwillingness of individuals to abandon publicly stated positions. So during last 10 years, the Delphi method was used more often, especially for natural science and technology foresight. Some modifications and methodological improvements have been made meanwhile. Nevertheless, one has to be aware of the strengths and weaknesses of the method so that it can't be applied in every case. So this is all about this lecture. Take care. Allah Hafiz.